Imagine buying a car with a warranty that guarantees it will run for exactly 3 months. The dealer tells you, after 90 days the engine will likely fail, the tires will rot, and the dust will choke it to death. You accept the deal, but then you drive that car for 14 years. You drive it through freezing deserts, up mountains, and through blinding sandstorms without a single mechanic ever touching it. This sounds impossible, but this is the true story of the Mars Exploration Rovers, Spirit and Opportunity. In the summer of 2003, NASA launched 2 identical robots to the Red Planet. The engineers were terrifyingly honest about the odds. They built these machines to last just 90 Martian days, or sols. The environment of Mars is so hostile, with temperatures dropping to -100 degrees and toxic dust coating every surface, that no one expected them to survive a single winter. Yet, one of them refused to die for nearly a decade and a half. How did a mission designed for a 3-month sprint turn into the greatest marathon in the history of space exploration? And what exactly happened in the dark, freezing silence of the Martian desert when the end finally came? To understand the weight of this mission, you have to look at the scoreboard before 2003. Mars was known as the graveyard of spacecraft. Historically, about 2/3 of all missions sent to the Red Planet had failed. They blew up on launch, missed the planet entirely, or crashed into the surface. So, when NASA decided to send not 1 but 2 rovers at the same time, it was a massive gamble. The plan was to double the chances of success. They named them Spirit and Opportunity. Their landing method was unconventional. Today, we are used to the sky crane maneuver used by rovers like Curiosity, where rockets gently lower the robot down. Back then, they used a crash and bounce strategy. The rovers were wrapped in giant inflatable airbags. They hit the atmosphere at 12,000 miles per hour, deployed parachutes, fired retro rockets, and then cut the cord, free-falling to the surface. They bounced, literally. They bounced across the rocky surface of Mars like giant beach balls until they finally rolled to a stop. On January 4th, 2004, Spirit landed. 3 weeks later, Opportunity followed on the other side of the planet. When the airbags deflated and the pedals opened, the clock started ticking. The 90-day warranty had begun. Spirit had a rough start. It landed in Gusev Crater, which scientists believed was an ancient lakebed. They were hoping to find sedimentary rocks proving water once existed there. Instead, Spirit found lava rock, just miles and miles of hard volcanic basalt. It was a geological disappointment. Opportunity, on the other hand, hit a cosmic hole-in-one. It landed inside a tiny crater called Eagle Crater. When it opened its eyes, it wasn't looking at lava. It was looking at layered bedrock, and scattered across the ground were tiny spherical pebbles. The scientists called them blueberries. These weren't fruit. They were hematite spheres, minerals that on Earth typically form in the presence of water. Within weeks, Opportunity had confirmed what humanity had wondered for centuries. Mars was once wet. Not just damp, but soaked. It had possessed liquid water capable of supporting life. But while the science was groundbreaking, the real drama was the survival story. Here is the twist that no engineer predicted. The biggest threat to the rovers was dust. Mars is covered in a fine, talcum powder-like dust that clings to everything. The engineers calculated that this dust would slowly settle on the solar panels, choking off the sunlight until the batteries died. That was the math behind the 90-day lifespan. But then, something strange happened. One night, Opportunity's power levels were critically low. The team prepared for the end, but the next morning, they woke up to a miracle. The power levels had shot back up to near 100%. The solar panels, which had been filthy the day before, were suddenly spotless. It happened again and again. For years, mysterious cleaning events kept saving the rovers. It turned out that the Martian wind, specifically dust devils, was acting like a ghost mechanic. Gusts of wind would sweep over the rovers at the exact right moment, scrubbing the panels clean and giving them a new lease on life. The 90-day mission stretched to a year, then 5 years, then 10. The robots became characters. They developed personalities. Spirit was the problem child. It always had the harder path. It eventually broke one of its 6 wheels. Since the wheel wouldn't turn, the engineers had to drive the rover backwards, dragging the dead wheel behind it like a broken leg. This actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise. As the dead wheel dragged through the soil, it acted like a plow, churning up the dirt and revealing bright white silica, evidence of ancient hydrothermal vents, another potential habitat for life. But Spirit's luck eventually ran out. In 2009, it drove into a patch of soft soil called Troy. The wheel spun, but the rover didn't move. It was a sand trap. For months, NASA engineers on Earth tried to wiggle it free, simulating the escape in a sandbox at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, but it was no use. With its solar panels tilted away from the sun, Spirit froze to death in the winter of 2010. Opportunity, however, was still running. It was alone now. Opportunity became the ultra-marathon runner. It drove more than 28 miles, more than a standard Olympic marathon, on another planet. It explored massive craters, climbed steep hills, and survived dust storms that blocked out the sun for weeks. But in June 2018, a monster arrived. A global dust storm, one of the most intense ever recorded, began to wrap around the entire planet. This wasn't just a breeze, it was a wall of darkness. The sky turned black. The sun, Opportunity's only source of food, vanished. The solar panels were starved. The rover's internal clock knew it was in trouble. It went into survival mode, shutting down all non-essential systems to keep its heaters running. If the electronics got too cold, the solder joints would crack, and the brain would die. On June 10, 2018, Opportunity sent its last transmission. The data packet contained 2 heartbreaking pieces of information. Its power levels were historically low, and the atmospheric opacity was historically high. The internet poetically translated this final message into a sentence that broke the world's heart. My battery is low and it's getting dark. Then silence. For 8 months, NASA listened. They sent over 1,000 commands begging the rover to wake up. They played songs like Wake Me Up Before You Go-Go and Space Oddity in the control room, hoping for a ping. But the dust from the storm had coated the panels too thickly. The winds that had saved it so many times before did not return in time. On February 13, 2019, NASA officially declared the mission over. The rover that was supposed to last 90 days had survived for 14 years. The legacy of Spirit and Opportunity isn't just the data they sent back. It's that they changed how we feel about machines. We anthropomorphized them. We cheered for them when they climbed hills, and we mourned them when they died. They were our avatars. Through their eyes, we stood on the surface of another world, saw the blue sunset of Mars, and touched the ancient rocks of a dried-up sea. They proved that Mars is a place we can go, a place we can understand, and a place that was once very much like Earth. Today, Opportunity sits silent in Perseverance Valley, waiting. It is covered in red dust, a monument to human curiosity, and perhaps one day a human astronaut will walk up to it, brush the dust off the solar panels and say, "Good job, little one. You did good." If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel out more than you know.